Hello and welcome to another episode of Frames Team, and let me today share with you the joy of shooting with the 600 6.3. This is a wonderful setup with the Z8, but I've never quite enjoyed with any other lens as much as I have done shooting with this 600 6.3, and let me take you through why. Now, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and help the channel grow 6,000 subscribers by the end of this month. I think that's very difficult, but at least within a month, I would like to reach 6,000 subscribers. So while shooting with the Z8, the first thing I've done is taken off this little tiny handle from here because, it just adds to the weight and it doesn't do much because it's very, very small. So I'm going to just keep it in the pocket. It's the same thing with the 400 4.5. This actually, I don't know why it felt lighter. I'll write the weight of this lens somewhere here, but this lens actually felt lighter than the 400, and the fact that I can actually reach out to 600 millimeters. Your body expects to carry a lot of weight, and knowing how beautifully balanced this lens is with the Z8, how light it is. In fact, for the first time, my wife decided to shoot with this, and she took a few photos. She was in fact surprised that this is so light. So if there are any women, female bird photographers there who do not prefer to carry a lot of weight, the 600 6.3 is an absolute beautiful lens for you, and no other system actually gives you something like this. What comes with weight is also this consideration about how well you're able to hold the lens and stabilize it, okay? And the Z8 Z9 stabilization, it is incredible how good the stabilization is. The autofocus with this lens is as expected. It is very, very good. But I somehow felt as if the 400 4.5 was slightly faster. I felt as if there were situations where I kind of spent a little more time initially to get the camera in focus, to get the subject in focus. It happened a few times. Other than that, I think the focusing is absolutely awesome in most situations. The question is, can you shoot in low light situations like this? This is falling sun. Oh, look at that bird. I'll show you the shot that I'm taking right now. First of all, I need to quickly switch on the stabilization, and yeah, and as you can see, there is no distortion whatsoever, no glaring, no flaring, none of those things when I shoot directly at the sun. I shot directly at the sun, and today we have been actually shooting against the sun all the while. And the performance with this lens is absolutely stunning. It is incredible to actually see how good these lenses are. The 800, the 400, the 600, all of them are stunning lenses in terms of distortion and the kind of output they give you in difficult situations. Now, when it comes to the construction of this lens, the light is falling right now. This is a very simple construction. I like how easily I can access this ring here. I can just quickly override, focusing if I have to quickly move to manual focus, because at times these mirrorless cameras, all these mirrorless cameras can get confused when you're trying to suddenly close focus, right? And therefore, at times you need to quickly access manual focusing, and I like to use this lens here for that. You've got a memory set button here, which has got a very simple job. The job is to remember a particular focus point, and if you want to quickly come back to that focus point, the memory function button is amazing. Now, if you have seen any review of this lens, you'll know that this lens is one of the sharpest of the telephoto primes from Nikon Z mount. In fact, it competes very well even with the 600 and the 400 TC lenses. Let's just go to the studio and look at the images and see how croppable they are. Because for me, for these telephoto lenses, if I'm able to crop it down to 200% or 300-400%, I'm happy. You want to get that 46, 45 megapixels because you want to crop. When you're shooting birds or wildlife, you want to crop in those images and probably get a 20 megapixel amazing picture, or even a 12 megapixels, but sharp, amazing picture with great colors. That's what you want without distortion. Let's see if this lens delivers on that promise or not.
So as an overall package, I think I've found the lens that I've been looking for. So whenever I go for a telephoto lens, the 600 6.3 is going to be the one that I am going to go for. And so therefore, if you are going to ask me off the lot, which one do I recommend? I recommend this: price, value, weight, performance, sharpness. Let's talk about sharpness. Oh my god, I like, already it's 600 millimeters, right? And since you might actually use 800, maybe you'll take it for a day for rent, and you will love the 800 millimeters focal length. You love the fact that you can just zoom in a little bit more with that 800, and you don't get to do that with this 600. But then this 600 is as sharp as that 800 after cropping it. And I was shooting in a very, very high contrast scenario. Let me tell you, this time when I was shooting with the 600 6.3, I was shooting right against the sun, and it was a very difficult condition. To be honest, I was not able to actually look at the subject because the sun was so bright. I realized that I should have been wearing a hat or a cap, and I didn't do that. I had to like cover my eyes just to be able to see, or I had to take hide behind my EVF just to be able to see. It's that bright when you shoot directly against the falling sun. And because there's a water body, I was seeing two light sources. There's one in the sky, and then it was reflecting off the surface of the water, very, very bright. And if I'm covering the real sun, then the reflection of the sun is like hitting me from the water. So all of that to tell you that I was shooting in that sort of condition, and in that sort of condition, it is so very easy to get haze in your pictures. But when I went through the images, it is impossible to imagine that I was shooting so straight against the sun by looking at the pictures. But when you see the pictures, when you see the rim light against the body of those birds, you just see how contrasty those situations were. And the autofocus in those situations were fantastic. Okay. And let me tell you, you get some of the best pictures when you shoot against the sun in these kind of scenarios, right? Or at least you get the side light going on for you. Falling light, side light, or against the sun. I'm talking about it more and more because I'm thoroughly pleased, and in fact, I'm blown over by the performance of this lens. I have not used the 600 TC, but I think this 600 6.3 is perhaps the best telephoto lens apart from that 400 2.8. I think finally my search is over. I've been looking for a telephoto for a long time, and I actually thought initially that I'm going to buy the 180 to 600. And when I used it, I liked it. It was really a great range, because 180 to 600 is so flexible, and in most situations that is what you need. You need that flexibility. And often when you're coming from using your f-mount lenses, you realize that those f-mount lenses, especially the zoom ones, or even the primes, even the 500 5.6 for example, when you are adapting those lenses with any of the modern Z mount bodies, you will see that, for example, when you're shooting far away and suddenly you see something closer to you and you want to quickly catch that moment, I always found it I always struggle to do that with f-mount lenses. Now that happens also with any mirrorless camera, with any mirrorless lens, but I think the problem is more accentuated with the adapted f-mount lenses. Why am I talking about those f-mount lenses suddenly? In my experience, that lens doesn't give me this problem as much. But when you compare that performance with the likes of 400 2.8, of course, that's a very expensive lens, the 400 4.5, or the 600 6.3, you see the difference. As in, when compared, you still see that the 180 to 600 focusing, especially going back and forth very rapidly, especially for that, the 180 to 600 is not as good as these primes. Well, of course, that is to be expected because the 180 to 600 is a value lens. That's a much more affordable lens. This is a more expensive lens. I'll write the price somewhere. It's a much more expensive lens, and it's dedicated to be one thing. It just has to be a 600 6.3. It doesn't have to be a 180 5.6. It doesn't have that pressure. It doesn't have those lens elements to move around. So the focus motor actually has a much easier time focusing with this lens with much fewer lens elements. Secondly, the second joy is honestly just how light it is, okay? And I've spoken about it, so I'm not going to elaborate on it further. But then it is further, but then it is difficult to sort of, get over that. A 600 millimeters, this fast and this light, remarkable. So guys, if you like this content here, please like it, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Help me reach 6,000 subscribers within a month. It's been a long journey for me, almost 2.5 years, maybe even slightly longer than that. But I'd like to really take this channel to the next level, and I can only do that when I see that it's worth doing. So if you're there, if you're watching this video, and if you think that this is somewhat relevant to you, subscribe to the channel, help me grow so that I continue to keep doing this work. Of course, with that motivation, with that click of a button, you really motivate me. When I see the numbers grow every day, I get about between 7 to 12 subscribers. If I can push that number to 50 subscribers, and I know some of these videos get anywhere between 1,500 to 5,000, 6,000 views. If like half of you subscribe, I get that huge boost, and it is not an ego boost. This is telling me that, okay, this is positive encouragement. I want to do more of it. I want to do better. And I want to bring in more detailed, helpful conversations, whether on photography skill, gear, or point of view on things related to photography, the passion, the work, all of it. For a lot of people, I know so many people who told me that photography saved them from very depressing situations in life. So I think I want to be part of those conversations, but I can only do it. This is a long pitch, but I can only do it if you guys show some support. It really doesn't take much from you. I'm going to see you soon with another one.